One ride.
One driver. One secret.
No way back.
You don't come. Welcome, oh. I beg, before we go begin this story, we go scatter your head. Make you do it in. Subscribe, sharp. Like the video, drop your sweet comments. No, they form. Now beggar the beg, oh. Okay, now, sitting well.
The music inside Club Galaxy was so loud that Ada felt it shaking her chest. It was past midnight, and the lights flashed red, blue, and gold as people danced like tomorrow would never come. Ada had promised herself she would leave early. But here she was, still holding a cold bottle of malt and laughing with her friends. "Time don't go, oh," her friend Bissy shouted over the music. "How you go reach hostel?" "I go book Uber," Ada said, pulling out her phone. She didn't like staying too long in the streets at night. Lagos was never really safe, even for someone like her who minded her own business. Bissy waved as Ada walked outside. The night air smelled of sweat, perfume, and fried suya from the nearby stand. Ada opened her Uber app, typed in her hostel address in Yaba, and waited. One car accepted almost immediately. Toyota Camry, plate number KJA 757. The driver's name was Kunle. No picture, no ratings. But the car was just 3 minutes away. Ada didn't think much of it. She just wanted to get home, wash off the club smell and sleep. When the car stopped in front of her, the driver didn't roll down the window or greet her. He only unlocked the back door. "You're Kunle, right?" Ada asked. The man only nodded. His face was hidden under a black cap. Ada shrugged and entered. "I beg, Yaba side," she said as she buckled her seatbelt. The car moved slowly at first, then faster. The streetlights became fewer as they drove on. Ada checked her phone again. For some strange reason, the Uber app no longer showed Yaba. Instead, the destination now read one word: Underworld. Ada frowned. "Wait, which side be that?" she whispered to herself. The driver said nothing. Ada leaned forward. "Excuse me, sir, I think you put wrong address." "I go Yaba not?" She paused, staring at the strange word glowing on her screen. "This one." The driver didn't answer. He only kept driving, eyes fixed on the dark road ahead. Ada felt a cold breeze inside the car, even though the windows were closed. She rubbed her arms. "Oga, I beg talkna. You no hear me." The man's hands gripped the steering wheel tighter. The dashboard light revealed his knuckles, thin, pale, almost like bone. Ada swallowed. Something about the way he drove felt wrong. The streets looked unfamiliar. They passed places she had never seen before. Roads with no signboards, shops with lights off, and long stretches of empty land. She picked her phone to call Bissy, but there was no network. No bars, nothing. Her heart began to beat fast. "Oga, stop make I come down," she said sharply. The driver still said nothing. He didn't even slow down. Ada leaned forward to grab the door handle, but it wouldn't open. She tried the other side. Nothing. The doors were locked. Panic began to rise in her chest. "I beg, stop this car!" she shouted now, hitting the front seat. The man finally spoke, his voice low, almost like wind passing through dry leaves. "We are close." Ada froze. "Close to where?" The man turned his head slightly. His eyes glowed faintly in the dark. "To where you belong." Ada's mouth went dry. She pressed her back against the seat as the car sped faster into the unknown night. The roads twisted like snakes. Ada had lived in Lagos all her life, but she had never seen streets like these. The signboards carried names that didn't sound real. Whisper Lane, Shadow Crescent, Last Breath Avenue. Her phone kept showing the same destination. Underworld, arrival time, 12:45 a.m. Ada's breath came fast. She didn't want to cry, but fear sat heavy on her chest. She tried the window button. Dead. The glass wouldn't move. "Oga, I beg na, I no get money, if no money you want," she said, voice shaking. The man chuckled softly. It was not a human laugh. It sounded like dry wood cracking in fire. "No money needed," he said. "Only you." Ada's eyes widened. Her hands began to shake. She remembered stories from her grandmother. Stories of spirits that carried people away at night. People who were never seen again. The car turned into a narrow street lined with abandoned buses. The headlights shone on walls covered in strange red markings. Some looked like faces. Ada's heartbeat pounded in her ears. She had to escape. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small bottle of perfume. It was the only thing she had. Quietly, she sprayed it toward the driver's face. The man didn't even blink. The perfume dripped down his cheek like water on stone. He grinned slowly. His teeth were too sharp. "Almost there," he said again. Ada pressed herself into the corner of the seat as the car rolled deeper into darkness. The road ended at a bridge Ada had never seen before. It rose high above a black river that didn't move. Mist curled above the water like smoke from burning wood. The bridge itself looked old, built from wood and iron, with faint blue fire burning along its sides. Ada's whole body trembled. She couldn't feel her fingers anymore. The car stopped at the start of the bridge. For the first time, the driver turned fully toward her. His face wasn't human. His eyes glowed like dying lanterns, and his skin was pale like wet ash. "Crossing time," he whispered. Ada shook her head violently. "No, I know they go anywhere with you. Leave me here." The man smiled slowly, then pointed to the river below. "Jump if you want. The ones inside will catch you." Ada looked down. Shapes moved under the black water. Pale hands reaching up, waiting. Her stomach turned. She couldn't breathe. The car began moving across the bridge. Every plank groaned like it would break. Halfway through, Ada saw shadows on the bridge itself. People walking silently in one direction. Faces hidden under black cloth. None of them made a sound. She wanted to scream, but no voice came out. The car reached the middle of the bridge. Then suddenly it stopped. The driver turned to her again. "We are here." The car stood still in the middle of the bridge. The night was heavy. Ada could hear the river below, like a sleeping beast breathing in and out. The driver turned his head again. His eyes glowed like old kerosene lamp. A bell rang once, then twice. From the mist, a figure stepped onto the bridge. It was a woman in a white wrapper tied high on her chest. Her head was shaved clean. Around her neck were cowries that clicked softly like teeth. Her feet did not touch the wood. She floated. The driver bowed his head a little. "Yeah," he said. The woman's voice was calm and cold. "Toll." Ada shook her head. "I no get money. I did not plan this. I don't even know where I am." The woman looked at Ada and smiled, but it was not a kind smile. "Money? We do not collect money here. We collect what you will miss." Ada swallowed. "What do you mean?" The woman turned her palm. The mist around her hand swirled and showed pictures like TV. Ada saw Bissy laughing inside Club Galaxy. She saw her mother sitting in a small church in Yaba, praying. She saw herself as a child running in the rain. "Choose," the woman said. "Give a memory. Or give a name." Ada held her breath. Her grandmother had once told her a thing. Never give your name to a stranger in the dark. Names had power. A memory might be safer, but which one? The driver watched in silence. The blue fire along the bridge burned a little higher. The shapes in the river reached up like they could smell her fear. Ada closed her eyes. She thought fast. If she gave her name, would she lose herself? If she gave a memory, would she forget her mother's face? She opened her eyes and said, "I will give a song." The woman blinked. "A song?" "Yes," Ada said. "A song my grandmother used to sing." "Take that instead." The woman tilted her head. "A song can be a road if it is old enough." Ada began to sing in a low voice. It was a simple lullaby from when she was small. The words were soft. The tune rose and fell like ocean water. The blue fire along the bridge bent with the rhythm. The river stilled, listening. When she finished, the woman in white blew out as if the song was smoke. "Accepted." She touched the car with one finger. A line of pale light ran from her hand into the metal. The doors clicked, the engine shivered. "Pass," she said, and moved aside. The driver pushed the car forward. Ada felt something missing in her chest, like a loose tooth pulled out. She still remembered her grandmother, but the lullaby was gone. She tried to hum it and found silence. It hurt like a small cut on her heart. They rolled off the far end of the bridge. Behind them the bell rang once more. The smoke closed like a door. They came into a city that looked like Lagos, but it was not Lagos. Tall buildings rose with lights that did not blink. The streets had names, but the letters changed as Ada tried to read them. Somewhere far away, a generator hummed without sound. The driver turned down a street that looked like Marina, but older, like a painting of Marina from long ago. People walked by in slow steps. Some wore agbada, some wore suits, some wore wrappers, but their faces were calm and empty, like they were thinking of nothing. They passed a market. The stalls were neat and bright. A woman sold bottles of red sand with small labels. First kiss, last laugh, your father's voice, the smell of rain. Another man sold boxes with names written on them. Sede, Cola, Amaka, Chike. He called out like a normal trader. Name for sale, name for rent, new name, old name, lost name. Come and buy. Ada's hands shook. The car stopped at a roundabout with a statue in the middle. The statue was a giant hand holding a lantern. The light from the lantern was cold and clean, like hospital light. The driver finally spoke again. "We will make one stop." "No," Ada said quickly. "Carry me back. I will not come down." The driver ignored her. He got out of the car and went to a small kiosk by the road. The kiosk looked like a ticket stand. Behind the glass sat an old woman with white hair tied in two small buns. She had a radio playing, but no sound came out. Ada tried the door again, still locked. She pressed her head to the glass and watched. The driver showed the old woman a paper. She stamped it with a red stamp. Then the old woman looked right at Ada and lifted 2 fingers like she was counting time. A soft voice sounded by the window. "You are not dead." Ada turned fast. A boy about her age stood by the door. He wore a faded football jersey. His eyes were bright, and his smile was tired. "My name is Chiki," he said. "If you want to leave, you must follow the rules." "What rules?" Ada whispered. He raised 1 finger. "Do not eat anything here, even if it looks like bread." "It is not bread." He raised a 2nd finger. "Do not give your full name to anyone." He raised a 3rd. "If you hear your mother call you, do not answer. It is not her, they borrow voices." Ada nodded fast. "How do you know?" "I have been here too long," Chiki said. He looked at the driver. "That one is a ferryman. He does not like to be late." "Why me?" Ada asked. "What did I do?" Cheek's face changed. "Maybe you were promised. Maybe you came here by mistake. But there is a way." "Tell me," Ada said quickly. "Please." "Find your file in the House of Records," Cheek said, pointing down a long street lined with palm trees that did not move. "Change your ending. Where is it?" "After the night post. Before the cold church. The building has no door and too many windows. If you knock, it will open." The driver returned to the car. Cheeky stepped back into the shadows and whispered, "Remember, do not look back when your name is called." The driver started the engine. "We go now," he said. His voice was dry again. Ada kept her eyes on the strange street ahead, but her mind held Cheek's words like a lifeline. They drove past the night post, where men in grey coats carried letters that were smoking. They passed the cold church, where a silent choir stood with mouths open, singing a song Ada could not hear. The House of Records rose after it, tall and thin, with 1,000 windows blinking like tired eyes. There was no door. The driver stopped. "We have arrived," he said. Ada stared at the wall. "There is no way in." He looked at her. "Knock." She lifted her hand and knocked on the blank wall. It did not feel like stone. It felt like cold skin. The wall shivered and split open like a mouth. making a narrow doorway. The driver nodded to the opening. "Go." Ada did not move. "You will not follow?" "I cannot enter," he said. "Only the named can touch their record." "Why are you taking me?" Ada asked, voice low. He watched her for a long moment. A slow smile touched his mouth. "Your mother asked for your life once," he said softly. "When you were a baby." "You were very sick," she cried. She promised a visit when the debt was due. Time reached. Ada's throat burned. "My mother would not do that." He looked past her at the empty street. "People pray many things when they are afraid. The words fall somewhere. Someone hears." Ada felt tears press behind her eyes, but she held them in. She could cry later. Now she had to move. She turned and stepped into the opening. The wall closed behind her with a sound like a slow breath. Inside, the air smelled of dust and rain. Rows and rows of iron drawers filled the hall, reaching as high as the ceiling. Each drawer had a small black label with white letters. A clerk sat at a table made from an old door. The clerk was a thin man with ink on his fingers and a small cap on his head. He did not look up when he spoke. Ada remembered Cheek's warning. "I cannot give my full name," she said. "Then give your number," the clerk said. "I don't have a number." The clerk sighed and finally looked at her. His eyes were full of little letters that moved when he blinked. He studied her face, then nodded. "We will find you," he said. He stood and began to walk. Ada followed. They stopped at a drawer marked A. Daughters, Lagos, Night Crossing. The clerk pulled it. Inside lay thin brown files tied with string. He picked one. The label read, Ada A, marked by promise. Ada felt the room sway. "Please," she said, "show me." The clerk opened the file. Inside were small photos of Ada. Baby Ada with fever. Small Ada running. School Ada holding books. Club Ada laughing with Bissy. There were notes in neat handwriting, saved by promise. Toll delayed collector assigned Cola. "Cola," Ada whispered. The clerk shut the file halfway and looked at her. "You can request an edit," he said, "but it must be true." "How can I change it?" "Bring proof," the clerk said. "Blood tells the truth, a mark, a sign and a stamp." "Where can I get a stamp?" The clerk pointed to a small window high above. Behind it a woman in a thick scarf stared down with no expression. "From her," he said, "but she does not give for free." "What will she ask?" The clerk spread his inky hands. "She always asks the same thing, something you used to sing." Ada's heart fell. The bridge woman had already taken her lullaby. She looked at the file again. The letters unmarked by promise shone like wet ink. She took a deep breath. "I will find another song," she said, even though she could not think of any right now. The clerk nodded. "You have until the clock sleeps." He pointed to a tall clock with no numbers. The hands moved backward. Ada held the file tight. She would not leave without changing the ending. Ada climbed iron stairs that shook under her feet. She reached the small window where the woman in the scarf sat like a statue. The woman's scarf was red. Her hands were pale and calm on the desk. Her eyes were dark like closed wells. "I need a stamp," Ada said. "What will you give?" the woman asked. "A song," Ada said. "Sing." Ada opened her mouth. Nothing came. The lullaby was gone. Every other song escaped her when she tried to hold it. She felt sweat gather on her forehead. The woman waited. The clock on the wall ticked in the wrong direction. Ada looked down at her hands. She remembered Bissy's laugh. She remembered her mother praying. She remembered a rain day in Yaba when she danced under a zinc roof and the water fell in a sheet. Without thinking, she began to hum the rhythm of the rain on the roof. Ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. It was not a song with words. It was a beat. The woman's eyes softened a little. "It will do." She slid out a heavy stamp, old and metal. "But you still need proof. Blood tells the truth." Ada nodded. She looked around and saw a fence made of long iron thorns running across the far end of the room. The thorns whispered like people praying. On the fence hung small tags. Truth pen, memory ink, borrowed voice. She moved close. One thorn glowed faintly. She took a deep breath and pulled it out. It sliced her finger as if it drank, and a drop of blood rolled down her skin like a bead of hot oil. She went back to the table, opened her file, and touched her bleeding finger to the page under the line that said marked by promise. The ink hissed like something alive. She picked the iron thorn, dipped it in the red bead, and wrote in shaky letters, "Debt paid by the one who promised. Child released." The letters tried to fade. Ada slammed the stamp on the words. The metal hit the paper with a sound like a small gunshot. The room held its breath. The clock stopped. Somewhere below, a drawer banged open by itself. Ada exhaled. The words stayed. The stamp mark glowed warm. Footsteps sounded behind her, slow and sure. She turned and saw the driver standing at the bottom of the stairs. He should not have been able to enter, but here he was. The scarf woman did not look surprised. The driver's eyes burned softly. "You are stubborn," he said. Ada held the file to her chest. "Take the debt from the person who made it," she said. "Not from me." He took one step up. "I take who sits in my car." "Your name is Kohler," Ada said, voice steady. He paused. Something flickered in his face. He smiled, but the smile did not reach his eyes. "Names are cheap here." Ada moved down the stairs, keeping the file close. "If I break your name, will your hands open?" The driver's jaw moved. "Do you know it?" Ada remembered the market man who sold boxes with names. She remembered the way Cheeky had pointed. She had no time to buy anything, but she had eyes, and she had one more thing, hope. "Maybe," she said, "maybe not." He reached the bottom of the stairs and raised his hand. "Come," he said to her. "The bridge is not patient." Ada thought fast. The stamp was on the file, but the file must reach the clerk's table to be filed. If she left without filing, the change might not hold. She had to get past the driver. She turned and did a strange thing. She walked straight toward him. At the last second, she dropped low and slid to the side like a child playing football on the street. She felt his cold coat brush her shoulder. She ran. "ADA," the driver called. He said her name with a weight that made the walls tremble. Her body wanted to stop. Her feet wanted to turn. But Cheeky's warning hit her like a slap. "Do not look back when your name is called." She kept running. She reached the clerk's table and threw the file down. "File it now," she shouted. The clerk read the new line, saw the stamp, and slammed the drawer shut over the file with a final, hard sound. Filed. The building shook. The hands on the tall clock fell off and rolled on the floor like two dead fish. Ada turned around. The driver stood still. His fingers opened, then closed. The blue light in his eyes dimmed. "We are not done," he said in a low voice. "The road has many lanes." The wall opened by itself. Wind rushed in, smelling like salt and rain. Ada ran through the door and out into the street of the Not Lagos. The city changed as she ran. The lights blinked for the first time. The market stalls closed their eyes like tired birds. Somewhere, a siren wailed, then laughed. Ada reached the roundabout and the statue of the hand with the lantern. The lantern flickered like a candle at the end of its life. "Here," someone whispered. It was Chike stepping out from behind the statue. "You did it?" "I think so," Ada said, breathing hard. "But he is still coming." Chike looked over her shoulder. The driver stepped from a side street as if the street itself had created him. He did not run. He did not need to. The road bent toward his feet. Chike grabbed Ada's hand. "There is another way," he said. "The return lane, it is narrow and angry, but it goes back." "Where?" "Home," he said, "if you pay it a truth." "What truth?" "The kind that cuts." They ran together. They passed the night post again. The letters inside the sack hissed like wet coal. They passed the cold church. The silent choir turned their heads to watch them. In a window, Ada thought she saw her mother, but she kept her eyes forward. They reached a narrow road between two tall walls. The road was thin like a piece of string. At the mouth of the road stood a small boy holding a bell. He looked at Ada with old eyes. Truth? He asked. Ada swallowed. She did not want to say it. But maybe this was the price to go back. I was happy that my father left, she said finally, voice shaking. I told people I was sad, but I was happy. The house was quieter. The boy rang the bell once. The narrow road opened like a mouth. Go, he said. Chike stopped. He shook his head. I cannot follow, he said softly. I did not change my file in time. Ada wanted to hold him. Thank you, she said. I will remember you. He smiled, a real smile this time. Remembering is a gift. Do not spend it all. He stepped back. Run now. Ada entered the return lane. The walls on both sides were too close. They hummed with a sound like bees. The ground under her feet moved like the back of a sleeping animal. Every few steps the road asked for a small truth and rang the bell in her head. I pretended to love someone so they would not leave. Bell. The lane moved. I stole bread once and said it was a mistake. Bell. The lane moved. I promised God I would stop going to the club and still went. Bell. The lane moved faster. Behind her, she heard calm footsteps. The driver had entered the lane too. How? You cannot use my road, Ada said, breathless. He answered from behind, voice flat. I walk every road. Ada pushed herself harder. Ahead, the lane opened into a wide place. The bridge of smoke waited, the blue fire low now, the river breathing fast. On the left of the bridge, a small stall stood where it had not stood before. A woman sat there, old, with a wrapper tied firm. On a small board, chalk words read, Names polished, names repaired, names returned. Ada ran to the stall. Mama, please, do you have his name? She pointed at the driver who was stepping into the open space, his eyes dim but steady. The old woman looked up at him, then at Ada. Which one? The one he hides, Ada said. The one that will open his hand. The old woman tapped her finger on the table, thinking. She picked a small box and slid it across to Ada. On the box, written in bad handwriting, was a simple word. Cola. Ada touched the box. It was warm. How much? She asked. The old woman smiled with all her wrinkles. You will pay later, she said. Go. Ada turned to the driver. He had stopped at the start of the bridge. The blue light made his face look like a mask. She held the box in her left hand. In her right hand, she held her fear like a knife. Cola, she said, steady and clear. Cola, son of no road. Cola, hand on the wheel. Cola, open. The driver's eyes widened for the first time. His hand loosened on the air as if he had been holding something invisible. The river stilled. The blue fire lifted and bent toward Ada. Do not speak it again, he said, voice shaking. Ada stepped forward. Cola, she said again, and the blue fire flared. Cola, give me my way back.